Ahoy! It's me, Bones McGee, that a guy who occasionally remembers he has a YouTube channel, here to tell you that I'm back, baby! I've been getting a noticeable uptick in new comments on my previous Sea of Thieves stereotype videos, and I figured that meant it was finally time to make a spiritual sequel. You might be wondering why the video is called Ultimate Stereotypes instead of something like Shipset Stereotypes Part 2. It's because I'm packing a huge amount of stereotypes into a be-all, end-all stereotypes video. I've packed in stereotypes on some new sets, both clothing and ship cosmetics, sets I've missed in previous videos, viewer requested stereotypes, and stereotypes for stuff I couldn't fit in its own video. I'll be dividing the video into 3 parts: miscellaneous stereotypes, ship stereotypes, and clothing stereotypes. Before I begin, I want to mention this will probably be my last stereotype video on Sea of Thieves specifically, unless demand for even more stereotypes arises. I'll explain more at the end of the video. Also, I want to reiterate, even though some people don't exactly listen sometimes, that this video is full of my opinions that are backed by my gameplay experiences. If you differ from the stereotypes described in this video, then that's awesome. But without any more yammering from me, let's begin. Pistol sword users are the commanders or admirals of the Sea of Thieves. You probably like to roleplay as the captain of your crew and take charge to the benefit or detriment of your crew members, depending on your relative skill with the game and leading in general. Dedicating yourself to this weapon combo usually means you're quite good with the pistol, landing that quick shot and 1-2 sword combo to end your opponents. You probably use either the mercenary pistol or the ebon flintlock if you have it. Blunder sword is used by 2 kinds of people. You've got players who use them in tandem for close range synergy. Those pirates are deadly in close range, and getting caught in their well-placed sword swings and blunder shots usually means a quick trip to the ferryman. Then there's the type of player that uses the blunderbuss almost exclusively as a first line of defense ladder guard weapon, and if that fails, then the sword comes out as a last resort panic weapon. These guys seem to operate on an almost seamless hive mind in a way, as if one of these guys is on the ship, then all the other crew members use the weapons in the exact same way. And once you board, every pirate on board effectively turns their brains off and starts W plus M1ing towards you like a free-to-play pyro main on 2 fort simultaneously. The first time it happens, it's kind of scary, but after that it just looks hilarious. The worst part is that this strategy kind of works. There's ways to counter it like blunder bombs, but it's not as easy to punish nowadays after the blunderbuss rework made it impossible to drop targets instantly. If you don't have blunder bombs, the best you can do is run from these guys. This is a rare combo because it kinda sucks. It does everything Pistol Sword does, but with a higher skill ceiling. Essentially, the players that use this are usually newer guys trying out weapon combos and quickly figuring out the Eye of Reach pairs with other weapons a lot better than the sword does. These guys are gonna try and snipe you, miss a few times, and say screw it and run at you with the sword like the previous guys. Once again, the sword comes in as old reliable, which transitions me into my next topic. I feel like the sword in general gets too much hate in Sea of Thieves. Most more skilled players call it a no-skill weapon simply because it's easy to use, and the term sword lord is usually used in a pejorative context. I believe there are 2 sword lords. The pejorative sword lord, as mentioned previously, just runs at you with the sword and mashes his mouse into the ground. But then you've got the few select people who've truly mastered the sword. These rare select few are like the Sea of Thieves Kung Fu masters. These guys will lunge at you with that sword and hit you almost every time, knocking you off your boat or just killing you outright. It's these rare few that you should truly respect. They don't mess around. These guys are your typical double gunners, which is funny since that term was originally only used to address the related now patched quickswap exploit, but now refers to anyone who uses 2 ranged weapons. Anyway, these guys are dangerous in their own right, but it depends on how long they've practiced with this combo. You've got your average trainee, who occasionally can pull off a blunder quickscope combo, but usually misses the second shot. But he's getting better and better every day. Next, you've got your average double gunner. He can hit his shots and drop you quick, maybe even skeet from time to time. And then you've got the two final levels. The first final level is Feb level. Just like the namesake, these guys are absolutely cracked with both weapons respectively. From sniping the cannon line to skeeting, these guys are nigh unstoppable, and either wear the most obnoxious clothing, wear meme fits, or are booty butt naked. The second final level is unfortunately quite the evil one, and that's the hacker. These guys download all sorts of cheat engines and software just to annoy players in a game with an already dwindling player base. Usually these guys have the whole kit and caboodle with aimbot, ESP, and quick swap hacks, although sometimes you get that one who only uses a quick swap hack. I guess the difference is the guy with the full kit is compensating for a lack of skill or for some other reason, and I can never really tell with these guys. While the other is genuinely skilled, but is pissed that Rare keeps patching Quick Swap and downloaded a hack so he can keep using it without having to learn a bunch of new convoluted key inputs just to be able to use a strategy he mastered back in the arena days. Pistol Eye of Reach is like its blunderbuss cousin, but for more sophisticated folk. Those who would rather stay out of harm's way than be up close and personal. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as Blunder Eye of Reach from my experience. Throwing knives since their introduction have seen mixed responses from the player base, but have never really found their place in the meta. Those kinds of people you see using this are PvE type players who like the melee range combo, new players who find out it kinda sucks, and those tryhards who swore by this weapon back when Rare tried to rebalance it and improve hit reg and accidentally made the most broken weapon in the game. I don't remember if they fix it or not since I haven't hopped on for a long play session in a while, but most people you see with this are memers or new players trying weapons out. I did a stereotype on the golden bones and my clothing stereotypes to mixed responses. Even S-Mod, the guy that made Sponge's banner, came out of the woodwork, which genuinely surprised me. So I figured if I had to diss the golden bones, I should shine a spotlight on its cousin, the legendary blessing of Athena's fortune, or as I affectionately refer to it as, the piss ghost. Remember how I related most Golden Bones users to the fat gamer fuck from the South Park episode Make Love Not Warcraft? And yes, I'm allowed to make that comparison, probably more than anyone else considering I live in Colorado, but to be honest, Golden Ghosts are the complete opposite of their skeletal cousins. Of all the interactions I've had with them, I can't think of a single one where any toxicity was thrown around at all. Sure, it always ends in me getting my ass handed to me, but I've never been upset about it because these guys don't gloat or call me mean names or say I suck. They're like the silent, stoic veterans of a war of ideals. They are nothing but good sports, and I have nothing but respect. The part I find ironic, though, is how both level 1000 Curse's behaviors align pretty well with the ideals of the factions they've pledged themselves to for so long, with the Golden Ghosts being stoic defenders of the Pirate Lord's ideals, while Golden Skeletons are loud, crass, and boastful, almost living propaganda machines spreading Flameheart's terror. Each one is a clear contrast of good and evil. The Pirate Lord is the good-natured side of the human spirit, the side that shows empathy and compassion for those less fortunate, while Flameheart is the side that's looked down upon, the side that wants to rise to power, to conquer the world and destroy anyone that gets in their way. However, being a villain is entirely up to the point of view of the narrative. Flameheart doesn't see himself as a villain at all. He sees himself as the liberator of the Sea of Thieves, as he believes the Pirate Lord is a tyrant who doesn't allow his followers the true freedom a pirate's life should have. The same goes for the Golden Bones. They don't view their boastfulness, crass behavior, and trash talking as wrong, because in their eyes they're the hero of their own story, where success is placed above all and must be obtained by any means necessary. Wow. Who knew Sea of Thieves would become such an existential representation of the human spirit? I've already talked about this set in my ship set stereotype video, but I wanted to rehash it, because Rare pulled a silly and added it to the Pirate Emporium. This caused the stereotype to change for better or worse since it's now readily available for anyone to acquire. Now that you can just buy it for some of Ancient coins, most of the people you see using this set are actually going to be Ori fans, which makes me pretty happy. Of course, you still have the Twitch drop hunters who, if they didn't have another set to covet, probably still try to convince you it's rare because I had it before it was in the shop. Also, I've encountered a few sailors who only use certain parts of this set, like the hull, which has a pretty appealing purple and blue color, so I guess you could combine it with other set pieces and make a fit, but from the people I've seen, they just mismatch cosmetics and make abominations. and I suppose you might, maybe, once in a blue moon, find a Lilo and Stitch fan using this because they still think that the funny little goober on the sale is Stitch and not Ori. It's happened once, and it'll probably happen again. If my almost 20 years on this planet has taught me anything, it's that lightning can in fact strike twice. To finish this one out, I really do appreciate that Rare made collector's editions of the sail and figurehead for this set, like the other Emporium sets, instead of just dumping the basic cosmetics in the shop and forgetting about it. I, and all the Ori fans that still play Sea of Thieves, greatly appreciate it. I have a funny story that goes along with this set, and I'll try to make it brief. Back in the olden days, long before I earned my skeleton curse, me and my friends were trying to play Hourglass, but at this time we still weren't super good at PvP, so we threw on this set for shits and giggles since we knew we'd probably lose, especially considering we weren't playing on community weekend. We did get sunk, unfortunately, but before we server merged, one of the opposing crew members came over with a burning question. Serious question, how do you guys game with those cannons? To which we replied, we don't, we threw them on as a joke. To which we both shared a quick laugh. Alright, end of story. In all seriousness, I like the aesthetic of a ship that's spent so long sunk underwater that coral's been growing on it, but the execution is just awful. Like, holy hell is this set ugly. I've never seen anyone use it unironically. Not just the ship, but I gotta call out the weapons too. Like, ugh, these weapons are nasty. Take this sword for example. Want a sword that nails the previously aforementioned aesthetic perfectly? The Revenge of the Silverblade Cutlass is what you want, not this veiny, organic-looking thing. This looks like some kind of weird alien organ stored in a jar in a walk-in freezer at Area 51. To be honest, the only parts of this set that look okay is the hull. In all honesty, I kind of like its color scheme, but that's it. And the associated curse, which still gets memed to hell with the fungal infection remark. Back to the ship set though, if you use these cosmetics seriously, which I doubt, then you probably like that coral encrusted ship aesthetic, but think the silent or wailing barnacle set isn't encrusted enough, and also don't seem to care what other people think of you when they see your butt ugly ship. So congrats on the self-confidence, I guess. To be honest, that's my best guess, since I said previously I never see anyone using this ship set unironically. And if you're wondering why I'm not showcasing the set on my ship instead of using a PNG, it's because, for obvious reasons, I don't own it. I'd rather save my gold. I must respectfully decline. Not because I'm a pussy, but because I've since evolved. I no longer wear the model Bones color, for I since discovered the luster and beauty of pearly white. The Bear and Bird set, more commonly known simply as the Banjo-Kazooie set for the game series it's based on, could theoretically be related to the new Ancestral stereotype, but heavily simplified. You either get this set because you're an old Rareware fan, or because you like the way it looks, cause all gold accents and stuff, and either don't get the references or don't care about them. It's a very appealing set, so to be honest, even if you don't understand the references, it still looks good, so yeah. Royal Sea Squirrel is pretty similar to Bear and Bird, except the Rareware fans that use it prefer Conquer to Banjo. I'm sorry I don't have anything more to say about it, it's just I don't see them super often out in the sea, so I don't have a lot of experiences to go on, even after thousands of hours of gameplay. This set and its parts are like a cryptid in the ways they're obtained, appearing only briefly for grabs before disappearing from the public eye. Its first appearance on July 17th, 2019 featured the hull, sails, figurehead, and flag as Twitch drops, with the rest of the ship set slowly trickling in from additional drops, redeemable codes, and Mixpot rewards, with a few recent additions following the captaincy update also available for drops. Easily the most recognizable part of the set is the sails, with the deep green color and blazoned skull compass pattern. This set is the coveted Twitch drop hunter set, with the most zealous drop hunters and the most skilled of PvP lords using this almost exclusively, with little variance in between, as most people only own the captaincy furniture for the set nowadays. If you see this set rushing towards you, even if it's just the sails, fully expect to get your ass kicked. Your loot and whatever else you're carrying is practically forfeit. Usually these guys aren't the gloating type post-victory, but you get the occasional bad apple. Just note that they're the only using the captaincy furniture, you shouldn't be worried. This set is interesting to me because it's probably the least used of the Pirate's Life Emporium sets, probably because it isn't nearly as fancy as the Royal Revenge set, nor does it fulfill as much fan service as the Black Pearl set. I mostly use the collector sales and hull from this set in combination with basic build track cosmetics and the LeChuck's Legacy Cannon Flare to roleplay a Skaven warship, with significantly less warpstone technomancy and slave-driven paddle wheels involved. If you do use the whole set, you probably like the Lovecraftian vibe of some of the parts more than Davy Jones himself, and if you really like him that much, you probably think the meme of him falling is fucking hilarious, and to be honest, it really is fucking funny. This guy is the Ashen Dragon's more sophisticated cousin, which is funny because the Ashen Dragon set revolves around fancy oriental themes, while the Forsaken Ashes set is basically superheated slag, hastily slapped together to make a ship and its components. These guys are much more refined folk who aren't nearly as cocky and aggressive, they know their skill well, never bite off more than they can chew, and are generally friendly and misfired at first. Once again, if you're wondering why I'm not showcasing the actual set on my ship instead of using a PNG, it's because I don't own it. And that's gonna be the modus operandi for every other ship set I don't own, so figured I'd point that out. Uh-oh, Disney adult alert! I'm kidding, but these guys are seriously huge fans of Pirates of the Caribbean, and I can't blame them. It's a great series of movies. These guys obviously take this love to the next level and deck their entire ship out to look like the Black Pearl. This is another reason why I believe the Infinite Pirate Generator is perfect for this game instead of a dedicated character creator, because everyone would look like Jack Sparrow. Did I see that in a previous video? I don't even remember. Point is, the owners of this ship are huge Sparrow fans and probably Johnny Depp fans in general, but it's hard to gauge their skill level or how they behave just on this fact. Some are brand new and showed up specifically for Pirate's Life, while others have been playing a while and have garnered some decent skill. Also, some of the people who were salty that Rare nerfed the DA sails started using the Black Pearl sails because they were gaslighting themselves that the holes in the sails gave them a similar advantage, when in reality, it really doesn't. It just adds extra patches of vision that, in my opinion, just add visual clutter and are really distracting to me. The Glitterbeard sails kind of cover a wide range of players of all types and backgrounds, but some use this just to meme when trolling other players, and I think that's kind of mean if I'm being real, considering the whole Glitterbeard story, as well as the cosmetics tied to it, is a memorial to James Jim White, an apprentice data analysis at Rare, who unfortunately passed away back in 2020, described by his contemporaries as exceptionally bright and friendly, and always focused on the players of Sea of Thieves. A lot of people I see using these seals are usually newer players, which is something I think James would have wanted. For a new player to find these seals by reading the journals, and sail with them proudly equipped as they continue to learn the ropes and discover all there is to see in our charming little pirate sandbox. So remember, next time you want to go out memeing, just think twice about using the Glitterbeard sails. They're someone's legacy after all. The Wailing Barnacle set, and the Silent Barnacle set by extension, is hard to pin down, since it only costs doubloons to get, but the Silent Barnacle set is more specific. If you rock the Silent Barnacle, you probably are so fucking sick of shipwrecks and stopping to pick stuff out of them, then you would rather give yourself a homemade ear piercing with a dull pencil than dive into another one, considering you had to pilfer 300 barnacle chests just to unlock this set, which I guarantee didn't earn you over the 4 million gold needed to purchase the whole set at once. Overall, you find yourself playing with one of these guys, don't suggest you visit a nearby shipwreck. They don't care that you can get king's chests from them now, they'll just give you a dirty look at best or find you IRL and break your neck at worst. The term Halo set technically addresses two sets. The Spartan set, which was time limited, and the Infinite Depth set, which is still available in the Emporium. For the previous set, you had to be an OG player to unlock it, which means you've either played so long you're practically a pirate god, or you quit for 3 years and aren't very good as a result. The other one is mostly just Halo fans who wish they had the Spartan set, but had to settle for the other one, which they aren't exactly happy about, considering Halo Infinite isn't exactly the greatest Halo game of all time. Either way, one of these ships is going to have at least one crewmate using the Infinite Depths costume and role-playing as Master Chief, despite not being the guy who owns the ship, nor the most skilled member of the crew. This guy AFK'd in Insiders for days on end so he can get an admittedly pretty cool set and a free pet too. Unfortunately, these guys don't know the actual lore implications, or probably don't, behind the set since you had to read a companion book to the game to learn about it. And I mean, who does that these days? Just read the wiki. Also, I don't want to be mean or seem like I hate these players, or any players for that matter, but for those of you who constantly complain that Rare isn't bug testing these new updates, like how the latest season dropped with over 50% of its intended features missing, for even more to be taken away later down the line due to game-breaking issues, you can partially blame these guys for causing this kind of stuff to happen, sort of. It's not all their fault, considering deadlines and the actual real difficulty of coding a game like this. Trust me, I know. I tried to major in game design, but found out very quickly it's not as fun as it sounds. But the Insider edition of Sea of Thieves was designed so that players could actively test upcoming content and assist the developers in finding bugs, so when the content drops publicly, it doesn't end up a complete buggy mess. But a lot of people instead use Insiders as an AFK drop farm for the most part, instead of actually playing it and looking for bugs. As for the actual players on this ship, it's just like all the other Rare ship sets. They're either gods or collectors, but you should be careful anyway. This is probably the most recent comment I got suggesting a set, so I figured I should get this one done first. To be honest, this set came out so recently I've barely seen anyone use it, which is kind of sad. I like the set even though it's a recolor of a bunch of other cosmetics, and the fact that it's probably the reason not many use it, other than that fact that its introduction broke the Bone Crusher jacket and its related counterparts, including the one from the Rusted Skull set, for a while. All I can say is if this is your favorite set, then you're cool in my book.
Stupid anti-pimping laws. Well, pay the man.
Bender, honey, we love you.
Shut up, baby, I know it.
I like to call these guys the pimps of the Sea of Thieves, despite the fact that they don't partake in any actual pimping. It's more their clothes than their behaviors. Elaborate, flashy, a tad bit obnoxious. Ironically enough, these guys aren't very good at fighting in my experience, despite the commendation required to unlock this set. Well, actually, the commendation is perfect, because these guys avoid fighting whenever possible. These guys are up crushing they bone every night. In all seriousness, I've got multiple kinds of bone crushers. Those that really love to kill skeletons, I avoid these folk for my own health, and those people who didn't get the original red version and have to settle with the stinky green version. You've also got people who love forts and home in on them like a homing missile. Lucky Hand users tend to be fans of Fallout New Vegas, which is one of, if not the best Fallout games of all time, so these guys are cool. I've also encountered a few people who rock this set in Hourglass to advertise that they're dice rolling instead of actually fighting. I've got a bunch of comments proclaiming that I didn't do the Hunter set in the previous video because I was afraid of the trip, when in reality I just couldn't think of a stereotype for it to include it. Because of a popular request, I'll go ahead and give it a stereotype. The Hunter set is genuinely pretty good, and I understand the drip is impeccable view for it. It's a good generic pirate set, but because it's so generic, I can't really pin this to any particular players as it spans a pretty good chunk of the player base. But from what I remember, you either got new cool players or shirtless Hourglass demons that only use the pants, boots, and gloves, plus whatever curse they've got if they actually wear one. This guy spent thousands of dollars on a pretty cool looking controller for a code just to unlock this set. Well, actually, the kind of person behind this outfit is entirely dependent on how much they actually spent on the controller. If they bought the controller at actual MSRP, then these guys are OG fans of Sea of Thieves, but they vary in terms of behavior and skill level. Some of these guys have been playing since day one consistently and are masters of this game, while others played back on release, quit for a couple of years since back then there wasn't nearly as much to do as there is now, only to come back now and aren't exactly hot shots. I think you're going to see this stereotype a lot. I'm sorry, a lot of the sets I was requested to do were like these rare sets that have the same stereotype. However, those who spent upwards of $3,000 on an unopened Sea of Thieves limited edition controller just to get the code, then you, my friend, are probably one of the most dedicated cosmetic collectors in this game. But I can't necessarily say I respect the purchase, considering that $3,000 in the right places can be about 2 months of rent. You could buy 3 Valve indexes with that money, not counting tax. You could also purchase a used car for about $3 grand, depending on the seller. There are definitely better financial decisions out there. These collectors also vary in behavior and skill level, though most dedicate a lot of time to validate this purchase, so most are pretty good. In my opinion, the best part of this set is the weapons. The weapons look totally badass. but the rest of the set is just kind of mad at me. There are 2 stereotypes that I've encountered for these costumes. Why not 3, you ask? Well, I've never seen anyone use the second variant. It's always either 1 or 3, like an inverted bell curve. The first costume is the person I call the beachcomber. These guys are usually trolls who go out of their way to annoy other crews and pester them. It's fallen out of style in recent times, but when this costume dropped, a lot of trolls used this simply because it kind of looks silly. The third costume I always remember being worn back in the days when the Veil of the Ancients costume was actually hard to get when the Athena level cap was 30. People would wear it because it looked similar and didn't have the Veil costume unlocked yet. Veil in Full Bloom costume 3 is Daniel, while the Veil of the Ancients is Cooler Daniel. I have one memorable experience with one of these guys. Basically, he was the enemy ship's designated boarder with the rest of the crew being new players. This guy was the only competent one, but he wasn't the greatest. Like, literally, he was one of those guys mentioned previously that runs at you with a sword W+M1 style, and we couldn't kill him. Why? Because his internet was so goddamn bad, he was teleporting all over our ship, and we couldn't do shit. We sunk because of it, which I thought was funny, but my crew was not as amused. I find it a weird consistency with these guys that they all have terrible internet and no mic. Other than that, they're just your average Pirates of the Caribbean fan, and the crossover is probably the only reason they bought this game. These guys were the OG glow sticks before the Ghost Curse dropped, even more so than the Ashen Dragon users. Once again, you've got a handful of people using this. You've got the OGs who earned it back on the original Festival of the Damned who wear it out of pride, and then you've got the people like me who suffered through the various troubles and betrayals of doing 25 Board of the Damned, only to buy this for 5 million and almost never use it. If you're the latter, you hate doing FOTDs outside of stealing them from other people. Also, nobody ever uses the other 3 parts of the crew set because everyone buys the bundle for the captain. I think it's a really cool mechanic that your other crew members can access the crew outfits without owning the bundle if you own it, but half the time it doesn't even work in my experience, so no wonder people don't go for the whole crew roleplay very often. These guys are kind of rare these days, as most have moved on to other games, especially after the waves of hackers that have been ruining the game as of late. These guys are like the Dark Warsmith stereotype in my previous video, but the Skelly Curse Copium is much more blatant here. The Dark Warsmith costume has its own appeal with the design outside of the skeleton aspect, but outside of the appeal to Killer Instinct fans, the Spinal costume is literally just a skeleton straight up. In fact, I barely see anyone use this who actually is a fan of Killer Instinct. Its user base is almost entirely people who want to play as a skeleton but don't want to go through Hourglass to get the appropriate curse. Now, I don't know if I've said this in my previous stereotype video with the Dark Warsmith, but I believe that this viewpoint is entirely warranted. Even after more than 2 years of being a feature in Sea of Thieves, Hourglass is still a total shit show. The skill-based matchmaking doesn't work, and very few people actually play the damn thing other than golden PvP curse gods and hackers who almost can't lose. The players who voted up Hourglass not knowing what it does. There are so little people playing Hourglass on a stamp on average that the game has no choice but to pit average players against the most unfair of opponents because they implemented a really stupid system for how the skill-based matchmaking works. It looks for an equal fight for 1 to 2 minutes, and if it can't find one, it just tries to throw you into any match it can so you aren't bored sitting at the underwater queue area. This was done to combat the exceedingly long queues from when the mode launched. Well, I'd rather be bored underwater waiting for a fair and fun match instead of getting pitted against people who play this game non-stop 24 hours a day, sink you in seconds, potentially hack, and call you a racial slur as the cherry on top this shit Sunday. The only time it almost kind of works is on events like community weekends or the fight nights. Rare said they would be having regularly, but they haven't done one for months, and then it doesn't always work because most of the people during these events are out doing fun stuff, like getting gold and making or breaking alliances instead of sitting in a queue waiting to see whether they get to fight and can win, or they get sent back to an outpost to try again. You might be calling me a hypocrite because I have the Skeleton Curse and I play Hourglass pretty regularly during these events. Well, my answer is that I got the Skeleton Curse because I wanted it. I didn't want to sell for an Emporium imitation. I climbed the ladder, I earned it, I suffered, and this is my reward, and I'm gonna wear it proudly. I only keep doing Hourglass so I can earn the commendations and the levels to unlock 99.99% of the curse's cosmetics, minus the golden bones. That's not really interesting me. So after that, I never have to touch it again. Not to mention the absolute number of hackers that ruined the mode even more, like mentioned earlier. In fact, the Season 8 update that introduced Hourglass as a feature is kind of what caused this hacker crisis in the first place. Sure, they existed before Hourglass was a thing, especially during the days of Arena, but they were exceedingly rare in my experience. After Arena was removed, the reasons to hack in Sea of Thieves dwindled and made it not worth the effort in the long run, since there was no competitive ladder. But here comes Hourglass introducing a competitive ladder to climb, and what's this? No anti-cheat to go with it? This mode was doomed from the start. The anti-cheat system should have been introduced with Season 8's release as a proactive measure, not as a reactive patch almost 2 years later on the already busted dam of bullshit. God, I'm sorry for the rant, but I really needed to get that off my chest. I'm gonna make a more detailed video down the line on exactly why Season 8 was such a complete mess. Okay, back to the stereotypes. You like to roleplay as the ship's chef, but that was probably obvious. What isn't obvious is really anything else about players who use this outfit, considering the only person I see using the outfit regularly is my friend Victor, who, if you watch my other videos, you know is Rimpy Gaming. So I can't really describe any actual behavioral mannerisms with just being, well, Rimpy, because he's the only one I see wearing it the most. I'm sorry, I don't have much more to say on this one. By far, my most requested stereotype from my previous videos, the Black Dog set is technically part of the Obsidian set, which is one of the most interesting parts about the set as a whole, is that all the parts genuinely have different set names but belong to the same set. It's really weird why Rare did this, but it's probably to separate them for promotional material with cool names and the like to make them more appealing. For Black Dog specifically, to get this clothing you had to pre-order Sea of Thieves before it launched, which makes the set rare and coveted for a reason, as Sea of Thieves didn't really reach its peak of popularity until the Pirates of the Caribbean crossover was introduced. As for its stereotype, it shares some similarities to the Ferryman set, but without a whole lot of the collector stigma, considering it is physically impossible to obtain this set, as far as I know, in the year of our Lord 2025, and collectors would probably kill their firstborn son to own this clothing set. The only person I've ever seen wearing this set was genuinely one of the chillest people I've met in the game. He let me onto his ship, but he wasn't suspicious or untrusting, nor was he naive or overly trusting. He excluded this aura of confidence that he didn't consider me a threat to his livelihood, because if I was, he'd have already killed me. We hung out and chatted about the game for a bit before he sailed off into the horizon, never to be seen again. As a general assumption, it generally falls into the day one player stereotype, along with the day one eye patch. Had to throw that one in there because somebody requested it, but it's hard to include that one. These guys have either been playing non-stop since day one and have done everything there is to do, achieved all the commendations they want or can, and solely exist to help new players step into the world of Sea of Thieves. Or they are the day one players who haven't played in years because of the lack of content in the early days of the game and have just come back, and they too are once again learning the ropes. The Ferryman set, in my opinion, doesn't have this benevolent teacher feel because it can still theoretically be obtained from purchasing an unused code, so it doesn't really feel like even the person wearing the Ferryman clothes is a day one player that's there to help you. I don't say that to be mean, it's just that the Black Dog set really has been around since day one, and people who wear it probably understand this game better than maybe even the developers do at this point. Sea of Thieves is more than a game to these people. It's an experience, a gaming pilgrimage of sort, that all players should go on and experience. And these players will be here to guide them into that golden horizon, from now until the servers eventually shut down and the game isn't playable anymore. It becomes an echo in the online gaming history, solely remembered fondly by those who loved it. Hey, I wanted to thank you for watching till the end of the video. If your favorite set wasn't mentioned, go ahead and comment which one it is, and I will consider making another video if I get enough. And I will see you guys in the future. Now hold on. I forgot one thing. I wanted to explain to you guys why I am going to be moving on from Sea of Thieves stereotype videos for the most part. I said earlier that it's probably going to be my final one, which is this one. And the reason for that is because these stereotype videos have been my most popular videos, but some aspects of them are just not making me very happy. I get mainly comments. I get a lot of comments on these that are like, "Wow, you nailed that right on the head. That's exactly how I act," and that's kind of fun. But it's not very nice waking up in the morning and checking your YouTube notifications to see that someone has branded me the CEO of player hate. All the stereotypes in these videos, if they're negative, that doesn't mean I hate them. That just means that that's the kind of person I encounter wearing this. It's not like I'm trying to make these people look bad. They themselves make themselves look bad. But that's probably the main reason why I'm going to be refraining from making Sea of Thieves ones at the very least. Is not only that, but a lot of people accuse me of stealing from another YouTuber called Backsaber. He also did Sea of Thieves stereotype videos, and I especially got a lot of them on the Shipset Stereotypes video because I used the same music he did, which is a Kevin MacLeod track, and that's free of copyright. Anybody can use it, so that's why I used it. It just so happened he also used it, and so if you really want to go back, he technically, if you want to point the finger, stole from Soundsmith, who made TF2 stereotype videos a while ago. So I don't really feel like it's very nice to call me a content stealer when the guy you're claiming I'm stealing content from isn't even original in his content, to be honest. But that's probably the main reason why I want to move on, is that I just don't really like making them that much, and people sometimes get mad. Some people can't take things with a grain of salt, and like I said earlier, that these videos are my opinions mixed with my gameplay experiences, and everybody who gets mad at my opinion has every right to, of course. That's kind of the risk of posting your internet online. Or not your internet, your opinion online. Oops. But people telling me that these stereotypes are just flat out wrong are factually incorrect, which is ironic considering that these aren't even fact in and of themselves. You're basically calling my opinion wrong. And an opinion can't be wrong, it can only be disagreed with. And I want to make that very clear, is that you can't tell me that my gameplay experiences with these kinds of players just didn't happen. That's not a thing you can say, and it's definitely taxing to read the negative comments. The positive comments are a good boost, but the negative ones are also kind of taxing. Not only that, I just want to branch out and make content on more games than just Sea of Thieves. Like I mentioned earlier, Sea of Thieves has a pretty dwindling player base. It's still obviously enough that the servers are worth keeping open for public play time, but it's kind of a dying game. I wouldn't really say that it's completely dead and could get revitalized in the future, but I want to be able to have a wide range of content, not just so I can jump ship when Sea of Thieves does eventually completely die out, but also because I just want to challenge myself with the kind of content I can make, and I want to make just more content in general. Sea of Thieves is kind of difficult for me to make content on because it's not a game I enjoy playing solo, and my friends don't want to play it very often. We generally tend to take long breaks from the game, and that's a lot of the time that's from having a bad experience with a enemy player, usually calling us slurs, and that's the reason why I take, well, that is the main reason why I take month-long breaks from this game, is because the player base can sometimes be a lot to handle, and sometimes when that happens and I get called the N-word after being sunk, because, oh, I have the skeleton curse, but I'm not infallible. I'm not the best player in the world. Even Theb gets sunk. There's been plenty of videos where he's gotten sunk. But everybody gets sunk now and again, but it's when people are toxic about it and call you the N-word or call you another type of slur that it really makes the game less enjoyable. I feel like these kinds of players are what are actively chasing some of the players away from the game, other than the hackers, of course. That's a major issue, but that's the other reason, is sometimes you find yourself up against a toxic player, and there's nothing really you can do about that. Sea of Thieves is a weird game. I've been called slurs in this game more than any other online game with player-to-player voice chat that I've played ever. And it's honestly astounding. I can't count the amount of times on one hand, or both hands for that matter, that someone's called me an obscenity in this game. Yeah, I don't get upset by it. I'm not a snowflake. Like, if you call me the N-word to my face, I'm not going to flip out Karen style. It just really detracts from the gameplay experience when the other player that is currently beating your ass is also a bigot. It makes you feel bad. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. I will still make Sea of Thieves content. I'm not going to abandon Sea of Thieves. It's still one of my favorite games of all time, despite the somewhat toxic player base on occasion and making these videos being a little taxing on my brain. But yeah, I will be making more Sea of Thieves content in the future, but just expect a lot more games. That's how I want to be able to keep up my upload schedule that I've promised since like the very beginning to upload 4 times a month, but I haven't been adhering to that very well. Even this month, where I said that I'd be making as much content as I could this year, I've only uploaded 2 videos this month. But I really want you guys to understand why I want to make more content on things just than Sea of Thieves, because I play more games than Sea of Thieves. Me and my friends play more games than Sea of Thieves, and we have a lot of fun doing that, and some of our funniest moments aren't even from Sea of Thieves. Sometimes they're from other games, like Gary's Mod, and, you know, other multiplayer games, Helldivers 2, for example. I maybe want to make videos on that. I'll definitely want to make Gmod videos. I want to make more Sims videos. I really enjoy The Sims. A lot of people think Sims 4 is not good, and Sims 3 is the better one, but Sims 4 is free, and I'm a little tight on cash. I'll play Sims 3 in the future, though. I still have that Stellaris video in the pipeline. I promised I'd make that a long time ago, but pretty much after I promised I would make that, my friends all collectively like took a break from it, which is really bad timing. I wanted to do it with my friends to showcase the Empire and how it plays, that I wanted to showcase with a group of real people instead of against the AI, because calling the AI in Stellaris artificial intelligence is an insult to it's an insult to artificial intelligence. So, yeah. Thank you for listening to this rant. I know it added a couple extra minutes to this video that you probably didn't want to sit through. I imagine you clicked off at the actual outro, and that's fine. I don't intend this part to be reached by everybody, but the people who do listen, I thank you for it. I thank you for hearing from me, and I will be making more content in the future. Maybe another Sea of the Stereotype video, like I said earlier in the video, sorry. I will be making another one early in the video, like I said earlier in the video, because, generally sometimes there's so many cosmetic sets in this game that there's bound to be somebody who, even on this video, is like, you missed this stereotype set, what about this one? And I'll have to log it down in my memory to go make another stereotypes video, but the best I can say is that there won't be another Sea of Thieves stereotype video in the near future, and I hope you guys understand why. The reasons I just explained. And once again, thanks for just listening to this. Greatly appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video. And yeah, I always have trouble ending videos, especially if I'm doing something like this. But have a great day. You know, have fun. Keep on being more pirate. And yeah,